I want to say good morning, and this is the first time I've ever done this. It's not a comfort zone for me, but so please understand that I'm going to do the best I can for you. I have a story, and after my cancer, God said that you're going to be talking to people. And of course, I shied away from the concept of that. So here it is almost a year later and finally doing it. Thanks to Greg, he ran out of speakers and said, "Hey, I need you." Okay, I guess my calling's upon me finally. So anyway, just a little bit. I liken myself a lot in my story to the story of Job, where he lost everything. Starting with the recession, I've been through hard times before. It's not a big deal, right? You know, we all have it. And unfortunately, I was in a industry, the real estate industry, that went south. That sucked everything in my life away, houses, everything. Even lost my wife over that. In 2009, ended up filing bankruptcy, and that's when she got on an airplane to see her sister in Pennsylvania, and she's never come back. So it's just one of those things where you think you go through all that anxiety that, you know, what did I do wrong, and you know, oh, God must not love you, and so that's when he hit me in the head. He said, I love her just the same. He said, you need to accept her the way she is. And so we're friends today. We talk a couple times every other month. We've got a business still together, so we still have to, you know, be civil, and I choose to be civil. I choose not to have any anger or hurt whatsoever. As a matter of fact, when she came out to see me because of the cancer a year ago, I said, well, I'm really glad that you left. And of course, she paused for a moment in the conversation. Said, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, now I get to be happy all the time. I don't have to worry about what you're thinking. So, so I went forward from there with that. Got past everything. Then I went into 2010. I went back into the seafood business I was in before. I was a squid inspector. I'm not sure if many of you have been a squid inspector, but that's one of the things I do. And that got me prepared to go and start my photography business. You know, high school and before, I took photos in high school photography class, and I was pretty good back then, but I didn't stay with it. In 2012, I left the industry of squid and started my Google photography out here, as Greg referred back to, and that's how we did meet. It was quite interesting. And then 2013, I'm doing a photo shoot down here at the Merck Theater, and I was filming from there above the stage area where there's a stairway, and I had a hold of the railing as I'm walking down, holding my camera in one hand in the pitch black. Fell, swung me head first down into a brick wall, and I got hit right in the forehead like that. And instead of seeing stars, I saw galaxies. I did not know exactly what was going on. A few days had gone by after that, and I seemed to be okay until I was driving down Jefferson. Excuse me for 1 second. I have issues. Okay. I was driving down Jefferson, and I saw these strange trees. They went up. They had a 90 degree. They went up 90 degrees, came back 90 degrees, went up, and they had fur on them. And I'm driving down, and I'm seeing rows of them as I'm going down Jefferson, and I'm wondering, what kind of tree is that? And I realized a few seconds as you're driving, time goes fast, those aren't trees, those are telephone poles. And I thought, oh, that's not normal. So my eye doctor is down there because I had been going to him on some other just typical issues, glasses, and being sure my vision was okay. And went in there, and they looked at it, and Uh, okay, I had to go see a retina specialist. The day after that, they had me in surgery for a torn retina. And remember now, I'm a photographer, and this is my good eye. So I go through my surgery. Everything he said was good. I go along for a little bit. Can't see too well, but get by in the house. And 2 weeks later, the whole retina fell off. So I went back for another surgery immediately. He did the repairs, and I'm going through in my head, I'm thinking, well, this is like the story of Job. Well, everything's being taken away, adversity. But thankfully, I always had God in my life, and I always had the ability to turn to Him. And that's where my security was, that's where my faith took me, and that's where I really began a stronger relationship than ever before. There wasn't a question that I loved Him. It was a matter of, did I need Him? And I realized how much I needed Him at that time. So I got through that surgery. I got injections over the next 18 months. I don't know if you've ever seen needles that are this big, and especially when they're coming at your eyeball, and you got to keep your eye open like this, and he's going to stick the needle right in the middle of your eye, and then inject this fluid into it. And thank God I submitted to it. I hate eye drops. I do twice a day right now, and I will the rest of my life, eye drops. And those are terrifying, but this was even worse. So if you've ever been afraid of stuff like that, it's not a whole lot of fun. I can assure you of that. So I went through my 2013 and into 14, and everything started to sort of go back to normal. I could drive in town. Furthest I drove was 79. South and north was Bundy Canyon. I knew the roads, so I wasn't afraid to drive. So there's a lot of blind people out there, so just be careful when you drive. I learned about that. But anyway, so I got through that. Everything was coming back to normal, I think, in my mind, and I'm doing great. I'm doing, we have a lot of good sales. We're experiencing new things, going in new directions all the time, trying to find better avenues of constant cash flow. That's what you always do when you own a business. You look for cash flow so you don't have to have any wondering what's going on. And by the end of 2014, and during that period of time, I was blessed to win the Ambassador of the Year at the Marietta Chamber of Commerce. And so 2014, I thought, okay, everything's doing great. Everything's really good. I'm coming back. I got out of the whale. I'm back on land, and God's going to bless me with more things, and which He continually does today. But I think it was probably June of 2014, I came down with a sore throat. And so, you get a sore throat, you're a guy, you just work through it, no big deal. Everybody gets a sore throat, everybody gets a cough, a cold, whatever it is. And so I'm out there just working away, and finally I thought, this is stupid. I suppose I should go to a doctor. Guys don't do that, but so I went to a doctor, and he I think it was end of September, I think it was. Yeah, end of September. And so it had been 7 months at least. And he gave me a Z-Pack, a 5-day antibiotic treatment to conquer it. Because I'd been praying about it. I had somebody knit me a scarf that I wore around my neck to make it feel better. And I went in and went through that 5-day, and about 3 weeks later, it's probably I think it was the end of October, as I went back, I said, hey, that didn't do it. And he says, oh, well, we'll do a 7-day this time. We'll really get it for you. I said, okay, that's a good deal. So I went, I took my 7-day Z-Pack, and I didn't wait the 3 weeks like before to go back. About the morning of the 8th day, I looked in the mirror and I had chipmunks. My throat had big balls sticking out of them like this. I thought, well, that probably is not good. Maybe I should go back today. Being an intelligent guy. Well, maybe being intelligent. So I went back to that doctor's office, and of course, walking into his office, the nurse said, just wait for 1 second, and they moved the other people aside. You sit here. And the doctor walked in, he goes, and he turned around, went out and got his wife, who was the nurse, get a hold of, I forgot the doctor's name, he's an ENT, get a hold of him and make an appointment. Let's send Cy over there right now. Well, why would they want to do that? So that guy could see me the following morning, so I had somebody drive me. They said, you can't go there on your own. You have to have someone drive you. Well, I can drive. I can see. And I said, no, somebody has to drive you. And they had these long pliers that are crooked like this, and they reach inside of your throat, and they grab a hold of the base of your tongue, and they rip part of the tongue out. And they say, okay, well, we're going to send that off for biopsy and find out what that could be. It's not normal to look like this, you know. No, I don't eat nuts. I'm not a chipmunk. So I thought, okay. So 2 days later, because, you know, you're always wondering, well, this isn't a good sign. They said, you need to come back here. So I had to go back to Fallbrook. And be sure somebody drives you. Somebody drive me. I could drive to Fallbrook. I know I can. But they wouldn't hear of it. You have to take someone with you when they give you a prognosis. And I had base of tongue throat cancer and cancer in both lymph nodes. So it was a little bit not exciting to find out in your life that at my age that, you know, because I had been in perfect health. I had taken my supplements for 28 years. I've been taking them. I'd been in prayer about it. I knew that God was good and that he was going to always see me through. My grandfather lived to be 102, and he ate dessert first, and I didn't eat dessert, so I figured 120. That was my goal, was always to be 120 years old in good health, because I had been perfect health up to that point. And so having a prognosis of this was not in the least bit what was on my agenda. You know, I was bad enough I had to be one of the best blind photographers in town. Thank you. But I went through the diagnosis. I went through the shock that, because when somebody tells you you have cancer, it changes your world. It doesn't matter how faithful to God you are. It doesn't matter any of that. You know that he's there to heal. You know that the Word talks about Jesus is here to heal and to see that, you know, we have our lives the way that we're supposed to live them. And that's when, after finding this out, you find out that sometimes you can be weak. Sometimes you can wonder. Sometimes you have doubt. And that's okay for a short time. And then after that, I had to turn back and really face, do I believe in healing? Do I believe it? I mean, I wouldn't have got it if I believed in it. I thought, okay, well, I don't need to do treatments. I'll just go and believe in just the divine healing. And I tried that for a little bit of time as I tried to sort this out in my head. You know, I'm a little bit hard-headed, so things, you know, that's what God sometimes hits me with a 2x4 a lot, because I got to get my attention. I'm slow. I then went on to I got to figure out what's the best treatment, because I got to at least go down that path while I wait for healing. Uh, that was the first part of November, that diagnosis of 2014. I went to insurance. I did research on where to go for treatments. And the insurance companies don't want to work with you. They just as soon you die, and they don't have to pay. I'm a firm believer in that. I've been through. I finally got, because of my association in the chamber, I had many, 30, 40 people looking into things for me, giving me good advice, people that were doctors, people that were associated in the doctoring realm. And I realized I needed to go to Loma Linda. I went up here to Loma Linda, the local campus, and insurance didn't want to pay for that. Excuse me. The insurance didn't want to pay that, so it took me. I was diagnosed as a stage 2 cancer in November, and the time it took me to get into treatment was February 2nd, and I'd gone to stage 4 cancer at that point. So it was fast moving, and I think that was good, from what I understand. That was a good sign. And they did the treatment. I went through radiation first. I brought in my prop. Greg was kind enough to go over and photograph my machine with me after the fact. When you're going to have radiation, they give you your own private, personalized mask. And they bolt you down on a flatbed table, and they slide you under a multi-million-dollar machine that radiates your neck. And so this is what you have to wear. And then the staff leave the room, and they've got a lead door about that thick that separates them from me. And I'm thinking in my head, because I'm simple, well, why do they get to leave? And this is this close to me. What are they worried about? It's not pointed at their neck. And so it was, games, I had to play in my head that I knew it was going to be okay. It is okay, because I'm breathing. And that's the blessing I have. I have the capability of talking to you gentlemen, to be able to go out and witness my life, my experience as a witness to a lot of people that aren't saved, because they see that I'm still who I was. I'm happy. I can go through life and still live. I don't have all the facilities to do all the things I used to do. Sitting with Ron, he said, "Oh, aren't you going to eat?" Well, this is a feeding tube. I've been eating on a feeding tube for 16 months. I haven't had a meal, which is okay. I've lost a lot of weight. That was one way to do it. So if anybody ever wants to lose weight, whatever you can buy in a can, you do that for 6 months, and you'll lose 50, 60 pounds for sure. There's no doubt about that. And you tend to go through a lot of different things as you do this, and you change. You take things for granted. And I think the only thing right now I take for granted in life is one thing, and that's I can breathe without thinking about it. I have to have sprays. I spray all day in my mouth because I have a symptom called dry mouth. I don't know if you've ever had any medicine, and your mouth, well, magnify that about 100 times and do it 24 hours a day with no relief whatsoever. The longest time I've ever been able to sleep is 4 hours since then at night, and then you get up and you're up for 15 minutes, 20 minutes trying to get your mouth back in so you can feel good enough to try to go back to sleep. And then like last night I got a good night's sleep, but the 5 nights before that I averaged 2 hours a night. And so my productivity, because I'm tired so much, isn't the way I want it to be. I want to be a value to Greg. I want to be a value to myself, and be able to do all the kinds of things I want to do. So granted, eating is, in and I used to be a chef. I was a foodie. I came from the food industry. I lived for food. My ex-wife was a flight attendant. People sometimes wondered where'd Cy go, and she said, "Oh well, there's a restaurant in Buffalo," so he flew back there to try it. And I'd fly back and eat a meal and get on a plane and fly back, because I wanted to experience something. So now I cannot right now, and I'm pretty sure I won't be able to experience anything like that again in my life. I think I'll be able to eat a little more than I can. I've had a milkshake now. I go to swallow therapy. Don't know if anybody's heard of that. I hadn't. They hook electrodes to my throat, and they make me eat foods or try foods to see if they can get my swallowing to work. March 16th, I had an operation, and they said you're not anatomically able to eat, so don't try because you may aspirate and die. So I gave up the idea of eating back then. I didn't have much fat, but they said 5 cc of the liposuction. I got 5 cc's of fat and made a liquid out of it, and they injected it into the base of my tongue where the radiation deformed my tongue and my throat. So they had to, it created a shelf, and that's where the food sat, and that's why I could not physically swallow. So they injected me with that, and then they injected it into my epiglottis because that was damaged. If it's that long, it shrunk down about 1/4 to 1/3 the original size and won't shut off my airway. That's why the food, that's why I can't swallow. It goes into my airway, and then what happens is when you get food in your lungs, it ferments, and then you go into some kind of pneumonia thing, and then you die. So not eating is okay right now until I get this all worked out. So then I had chemo, and chemo sometimes causes neuropathy. So I have there's a shoe store in town, Elias Shoes, and they are friends, and they took care of my feet during this. So last July, I would get up in the middle of the night and fall. And so they diagnosed that it was neuropathy. It was losing all the nerves. So I've been on in special shoes that they get me, and they put special inserts. Then I started another company in town, OsteoStrong, where they are rebuilding my bone density from the chemo loss, and they have a product that is helping me with my neuropathy. It's a vibration plate, and it causes the nerve endings to become stimulated, and they start to they stop all the damage continuing, because neuropathy will continue to damage and damage. Sort of like, I think diabetes is that way. That's why people's feet die, and then they have to cut them off. So I don't have to worry about that part. But so I really think that with regards to this kind of cancers, you got to have your focus on God. It taught me that I should have had my focus on Him even more than I was before. You know, we go through our daily life and we say, oh, everything's fine. We don't have to focus. We don't have to do that. Commit so much to Him. But every day it's a blessing that I have Him in my life, and every day it's a blessing to be able to go out and touch so many people. Because when I go to my chamber events, people come up and talk to me all the time. That I'm an inspiration. I'm not an inspiration. I want to be here. I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing it for you. Sort of like they're getting confused here, I think. Anyway, so I think that's most of what I had on my notes. I hate putting my glasses on. I have to do that with my photography, so I don't want to read my notes. I think I covered most of it, but I thought I could answer some questions if anybody was curious about anything I had to talk about. And if not, hey, we got time. We can go home early. Anybody have any? It was my radiation there. It was Dr. Bush. vice chair of Loma Linda main campus, and then he's the only one that comes down here. I did my throat swallow is in their outpatient on the first floor there, and that's where I go for that. And I go my ENT. I switched from the doctor that ripped the tongue apart that way. I now go to their ENT up on the 5th floor, Dr. Krishna.
Been going there since 2012.
Have you? It's a good place. Definitely is a good place. It's funny, you talk, when you talk, I dry my mouth out. So sometimes I know I'm changing the way I sound, at least to me. And so I have to do something about it. Hold on a second. Okay. So anyway, yeah, so good. Yeah.
Is that for proton treatment?
No, they don't do proton on the neck. That's why I originally wanted to go Loma Linda. I wanted the proton. It's more isolated. The machine that they have here is a combination of I'm going to call it, I don't really know the technical, it's a combination of a regular radiation machine, but it's directed by a laser. So they fine-tune it similar to what proton would be, is what they explained to me. Go ahead.
My wife has a mask like that too. She's going to undergo treatment at the Proton Center in San Diego.
Okay, okay. Yeah, proton, when you can, is from what I did the research on, is what I would want to do. That's what I wanted to do. That's why I went there. I was very pleased with all of my treatment. I know that my success in part was because of my chamber and the city hall. The people in there know me, and there were hundreds of people praying. When I would put a report out on Facebook, 150 to 200 people would like it, or I'd have as many as 80, 90 people make a comment on it. So I knew people were praying. People talked to me that, all the time that they were praying for me, and there were people that don't pray, and they said, but I don't pray, but I'm sending you good thoughts. I said, hey, I appreciate it, because not everybody is saved, but if I can be an example and maybe later I can talk to them, then I've done what I'm supposed to be doing, as being the example, being out there and staying alive by believing that God's going to use me. That's why, when I got done with my treatment, and I think it was first part of June last year, and he said, yeah, I'm going to use you, and oh, great. Okay, because this isn't the thing I want to do. I shared with Ron, I grew up in speech class, and he thought, oh, so you can learn to give oratorial comments around the world. No, I was born in Michigan, and they thought I came from Boston because I talked so funny. And I couldn't pronounce words, and all highs the issue instead of R's. And so I spent 6 years learning to try to speak, and then also during that time, they didn't realize I wasn't able to read because I couldn't see what I was looking at. I was guessing at things. And so they got me glasses in the 3rd grade. And I, oh man, they write on the wall here. This is interesting. And so by the time I got in the 7th grade, when my brother told me, join all the groups, be a Red Cross, get into this. You pictures in the yearbook, and all the girls like that. And, oh, okay, my big brother, you do it. So the first thing that happens is the Red Cross is on stage at the first assembly of the school year in the 7th grade. And we're all lined in the back of the stage, and the teacher calls me up and says, Cy, here, read this to everybody. And so here's a whole student body, and I can't read it. And I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, oh, I've never seen that word before. It's not a the or a and. And so tears started coming down my eyes, and I ran off the stage. So I never wanted to die. I never wanted to be the guy that came up in front of people. It's terrifying. I know I'm not terrified with you gentlemen, but I'm not at ease either, because I want to do a good job for the Lord, and I want to be a good witness. So, anything, yeah.
So, Si, was there a particular book in the Bible that you found yourself like constantly to, or did you have any particular?
No, because during that period, because of my vision, I still can't hardly read now. I mean, it's really hard I have many pair of different strengths, and I can read for a few minutes, and then my eyes still go blurry. I use a tablet, so I found this out recently, so my tablet I can enlarge. And there wasn't a particular verse, but because I was so well grounded, because I did study so hard up to that point that I knew the stories, and I replayed them. I listened to messages on television, things like that. So I really wasn't in control of that. It was just knowing that he was there always for me. But Job was the one that got my attention back in 2008, before all this started, when the recession was going on and I was starting to lose my company, the house, everything that we had. It was, okay, Job came back better. So I know I'm going to be all right. I know the Lord's faithful. All I have to do is be faithful to him, and be sure that I keep my focus on him, not on what the world's going through. You know, it's like this election, not focusing on what the two sides are fighting about and all that. This is God's election too. You know, he wants to save this country, and he'll find his way. Sometimes I look at what's going on the news and think, oh man, what's going to happen? But I know better than to think about it. Okay? Yes?
You said after your diagnosis, is that a combination of like fear and anger and disbelief, all package?
Well, I thought it can't be me. You know, I'm faithful. You know, I mean, I've always been in good health. Like I said, I'd been taking supplements for 29 years. You know, I did the right things. I didn't eat the wrong foods. I mean, I remember one day I'm laying on a zero-gravity bed as I'm going through this out in the I guess you call it the family room, watching TV. That's all the strength I had. And they had these little, I think they're called Lent candies, Lindt. These little squares with this caramel pulling out. And I didn't eat that, so I thought, oh, that looks good. I wish I'd have had one of those. I mean, that's how I think. You know, oh, these little things are big to me now. But before this, nothing mattered. You can do anything and have whatever you want. You can do anything you want when you want. Now, like I said, the only thing I take for granted anymore is I can breathe. Every little thing I watch, I don't. People don't want to go out with me because they're going to eat dinner. I'm happy for them. I'm not offended. I look at it though sometimes, and I don't look with envy. I look at it. Gee, I wonder what that would be like. Oh, I remember that. And so just little things like that become big. And I'm not angry about anything I've been through. I'm not upset that this was what I got. It's just, I got it. It's like the drawing of the short straw. It's not what I planned. And I know God didn't give me this. I know that. Satan is the one that attacked me. You know, he attacked me with my family, my business, my losses, my vision. And I thought I was done, like the story of Job. Oh, one more had to come. Maybe to prove my faithfulness to the Lord, I don't know. But I'm totally happy. I'm at peace. You know, if I was taken home tomorrow, I'd leave being at peace on this earth today. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did answer my question. You're a good man, and I'm proud of you because I think that way sometimes too. Because I've run my own food restaurant, but did something wrong with me.
No, can't. Okay.
Hey, Si, as
Yeah.
a person who's always trying to look at the glasses half full,
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to encourage you, if your photography gig never works out, you've got a career as an NHL goaltender with that mask.
I don't know. It's a little bit weak. If I took a hit with a puck, I don't think I'd want to be on that side of it. Thank you. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Wait,
Oh.
this time.